Hey, I'm Greg.
And I'm Billy.
And we're the Fuji guys. Today is the first look video for our brand new X100S. Yes, our flagship X100 camera. It's time for an update for that one. And just as excited as we were a couple of years ago to introduce you to the X100, this X100S is equally as exciting. And you know, it looks almost exactly the same as the X100, but as Billy's going to show,
good design, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have kind of changed a few cosmetic things, what we've done with the buttons, and thanks to the feedback from a lot of you guys out there using our X100. But you know, we really amped up the sensor and the processing power on this camera. So really there are some significant improvements on the new version of the X100, the X100S. And we'll get into those details in future videos. But for this first look video, Billy, just take us around the different sides of the camera and show us and tell us a little bit about this one.
Oh, absolutely. You know, let's take a look at the front of this camera. Of course, it looks obviously like an X100 with a little bit of subtle differences. Number one is the little symbol in the bottom that says S. So you know you have the X100S because of that. You also have the Fujifilm lens. It's an f2 lens. You know, very fast lens, a 23mm equivalent, 23mm lens, which is, you know, equivalent to a 35. It's equivalent to 35mm, right? You have still the controls for aperture from an f2 to all the way up to an f16. And again, that's one of the key selling features of the X series cameras. Is that you do have those, you know, photographic controls, exposure controls. In front of that, you have your manual focus option. We've actually improved the manual focus now, so there's a lot more sensors, which now will detect, you know, when you rotate, you know, and the focus in and out. It's a lot faster now, so that you don't have to rotate multiple times to get from one end to the opposite end, which is going to be
more
definitely
responsive.
Improved. And of course, the camera incorporates the new, you know, X-Trans 2 you know, CMOS sensor, which has the built-in phase detection. So it's going to take full advantage of that using, you know, things like split beam, you know, focusing, just like your rangefinder style cameras. It gives you that sort of imitation of a split beam focusing. In addition to that, there's also, you know, focus peaking assist options, which will help you to manually focus if you wanted to do that. Saying that, of course, this camera does have an incredible processor, and the focusing speed is definitely a huge improvement over all the X series cameras that we currently sell. You have the slow toggle that switches between the optical viewfinder as well as the electronic viewfinder. You have the AF assist lamp, and it helps the camera to focus in low light situation. You got the nice built-in flash. It has a super intelligent flash, which is great. And if you ever, you know, avoid using the flash, the camera's, you know, built-in flash is actually quite incredible that it doesn't wash out the subject, and it takes, you know, into consideration the ISO and as well as the exposure. The camera, of course, now offers full HD video with stereo sound, so you got the left and right microphones. Again, this is sort of the viewfinder window. It's in the optical side of it, but as you flip the switch when the camera's on, it switches to the electronic viewfinder. A little window slides over to cover the light from getting in, and you get full use of this brand new EVF that we've actually put into this camera. Looking at one side of this camera, of course, you have the attachment for your neck strap, one of the sides, of course, and you have your focus selector. You have manual focus, continuous autofocus, as well as single autofocus. And we kind of reposition that, so now if you slide it from one end to the opposite end, you either jump from manual focusing all the way to just a single focus. And so you just kind of skip.
More commonly used.
Just kind of skip in between that you know, continuous autofocus option. On the opposite end, of course, you got your connectors for the other side of the strap. And of course, you got this little door here, that reveals sort of the HDMI port as well as the USB port. So if you wanted to download images, you could. We are offering an optional microphone for the X series cameras that's going to work with the, you know, the XE1 as well as the XS1. It's also going to work with this X100S as well, and it does come with a USB, a 2.5mm to USB adapter that you can attach here, and now you can actually use an external microphone on this camera. So video is going to be great with this particular piece. Looking at the bottom of this camera, you got your built-in speakers, you got sort of that metal tripod socket, it's the standard tripod, and of course you got the battery door that gives you access to the same MP95 battery that's found on the X100, as well as, you know, your SD card slot here. And of course it accepts SD, SDHC, as well as SDXC cards. And I highly recommend that you pick up, you know, the fastest card you can, whether it's ultra high speed cards, if you plan to shoot things, you know, JPEG and RAW together. Looking at the top of this camera, not much has changed other than, you know, beside the X100, you have a sort of a red S now, which indicates the X100S model. You have your hot shoe, which is a TTL. It supports the, Fujifilm flashes, the different XF20, X20, and even XF, the 42 flash, EF42 flash. For TTL support, but you can also use your own flash if you wanted to, but you won't have TTL support. You still have your shutter speed controls. Again, you got A, and you got the various shutter modes, including a time as well as a bulb setting. You got your exposure compensation dial right there. You got your shutter release button. You push halfway down to pre-focus, all the way down to take the picture. You got the on and off switch, and you still have the thread to attach sort of manual cable release if you wanted to do that. And beside that, you got the function button, which you can dedicate to the various modes, including ISO controls or whatnot. Okay, now looking at the back of this camera, even though some of the layouts are the same, the controls have changed slightly. So let's look at obviously the LCD screens, the 2.8 LCD screen, same one on the X100. The EVF that I pointed out earlier is a hybrid. It offers the optical viewfinder with information overlay, but it now has a 2.36 million dot LCD, so it's double the resolution from last year. You still have your eye sensor, and you do still have the diopter adjustment controls right there. Looking at the left-hand side of this camera, you got your access to the play button, so it toggles between shooting and playback, of course. You have the AF button that allows you to change, to select. So you have the AE button that allows you to change your exposure from spot to metering to average metering, and then of course you have your drive button to change the different modes like video, your continuous shooting, bracketing modes, and then below that you have your view mode that toggles between the LCD, the EVF, or the eye sensor that's built onto this camera, so you can jump between the two. Going across, you got your command dial that allows you to adjust, your apertures or shutter speeds in 1/3 stops if you wanted to do that. It also has doubling actions when it comes to manual focusing to sort of zoom in by pushing into the subject and magnifying the center of that screen. You have the AEL button that locks focus and exposure, and you can customize that. You still have the sub-command dial that also adjusts, the 1/3 stop shutter speeds via that dial there as well. And it's very similar to the X100, of course. And of course, when you are playing back images, you can rotate that dial to go between, going back between the different images. It also acts as sort of the directional pad so that you can navigate through the menu systems. And the menu system's now been updated to be more like the XE1, X Pro 1, which has multiple tabs so that you can quickly go through the menu systems without having to go to every single page just to get to a certain setting. So some of the key improvements, obviously were taken from the XE1, X Pro 1. The controls acts as, of course, the flash button, changes the different flash modes. You have the white balance controls, you got your macro mode, and you have your AF button, which when you push up now, you can actually move to the 49 different AF points. So before, where you had to push the button on the left-hand side, the cam can now be up in your eyes, you can push the directional pad, and it's a little bit more ergonomic in terms of control.
Yeah, and it's all on one side now.
It's all on one side, which is great. And you have your display back button that toggles between the different display options, including customized display that offers things like histogram, grid lines, and even a horizon level. And you have your basically Q button that was found on the X Pro 1, XE1. So you have quick access now to things like the ISO controls and whatnot. We've added, of course, with the ISO controls, a new menu called Auto. And then when you're in that mode, you can actually adjust the various auto ISO controls in terms of the limit of the shutter speed, as well as the maximum ISO settings for that.
I think I can hear some applause out there. I think I can hear some applause.
So I hope that this new control is obviously moved to the XE1 and X Pro 1 as well. This is actually a great addition, and it's built now into that. And so if you set it via the function button, you can actually turn on auto from there without having to jump into different menu systems. Great. And that's a huge improvement. I think a lot of people are going to love that control. Now, just above that, there's a little LED light, and that's just basically the read-write light that shows up when it's writing to the card. And again, like I said, it does have a great buffer now that's much improved. However, you want to buy the fastest SD card available.
Especially when shooting RAW and HD movies.
So it's a lot to talk about, and definitely we'll have a lot more videos to talk about the X100S, including a little preview video, and of course the infamous top features videos that we kind of go through all the key features of this camera.
Well, that's great. I can't wait to get my hands on that myself. I love shooting with the X100, and I can't wait to try this one. So as Billy said, come back, check out the other videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow all our videos and sign up to follow Billy on Twitter here and get all the latest breaking news about Fuji. Until next video, I'm Greg.
And I'm Billy.
And we're the Fuji guys.